you see what this means? In the light of a torch, realize nothing is forced, nothing is forced. The nursery and all of the trees cross over the dark, and some old parking lot sold my whimpering thoughts, and I'm on the next train. You and me, can't you see what this means? In the light of a torch, realize nothing is forced, nothing is forced, nothing is forced, nothing is forced.
Long time no see.
Yeah, just kind of hold it, Drew.
Oh, is he in town?
No, but he said he'd send me your guys' PBS recordings
Oh my gosh.
so I could play 'em.
I have them on my computer
Oh,
at
you got
home.
them too? That's awesome.
It's like an MP3 player though. It's
Nice.
like from when we recorded. You can have a seat wherever you want. When we recorded on
Here, I'll sit,
our.
I'll
You
sit
can sit
near
by
you
me.
just so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just so.
I didn't know like what kind of equipment.
Yeah, it's
I was
nothing.
Like,
It's
I was like, I
cheap.
hope it wasn't like he had like a whole recording
No,
studio that
it's
he
cheap.
needs to like bring over here.
No.
Well, he emailed me like MP3s a long time ago, but it was like when we recorded on that. It was like a cassette recorder from
Yeah,
the 80s,
that's
and
what
we
he
just
said.
put it in
That's
the
what he
middle
said.
of
Yeah.
the room. So
That's what he
I
said.
don't know if it was the same ones.
I think it is because he
Oh my
said I was
God.
like, "Do you have any Punch Bowl spikers?" And he was like, "Yeah, I have
Why
old
Punch Out
cassettes."
Massacre and MSD are probably the most well-known ones.
That's cool. Well, I just hit record if you're cool with that.
Oh, yeah.
I know that's crazy.
I'm
but,
actually not okay with that.
I know, I knew it. So guys, just so you know, my name's Lee, and this is Nursery Podcast, and this is my good friend Jill Stevens, formerly Jill Dickinson, if you
Yes.
guys are from Columbiana and you happen to be listening, Columbiana, Ohio, PA border area. And she was part of Ohio's creative voice in that she was in this neato, like, punk DIY whatever scene when we were young. I'm not trying to make it sound too important. All I mean is
But we
that
were.
like I've had other people on here like Edwina and stuff, and they're always like, yeah, there was a real punk scene in like Columbiana
There
when we were
was.
young, and it's weird to think, but there really was. Like enough so that you were like that I was going to shows and being like, these guys are cool,
Yeah.
and then we play with you and stuff, But anyways, what I wanted to ask you, especially since now you live in Chicago, right?
Yeah, just outside.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you think of Ohio overall now, as you've grown up and traveled and like been from there and had
Yeah.
roots? What do you think? Do you like it? Do you not like
I
it?
love Ohio. I miss it.
Mm-hmm.
I went out, I explored, I did my thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I get homesick a lot nowadays.
Mhm. And do you want to tell? You don't have to share this, but do you want to tell people why you're home now?
Oh, well, my husband and I are expecting a baby in May, and this weekend, a little boy. And this weekend, oh, thank you. And this weekend, my mom threw a baby shower for me, so came home for that, to see friends and family.
Sweet.
So, got a lot of cool stuff.
Did you get to see people you wanted to see?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really nice.
That's awesome. And then, so yeah, you miss Ohio, and you've been where else? You've been Chicago. You've been in Colorado and Colorado Springs.
Yes.
I remember visiting you there and finding really cool record store,
Yeah.
finding cool restaurants. It
Yeah.
seems like you've been really nice.
There's
places.
a lot of sightseeing to do, lots of hiking and trails and things like that. Garden of the Gods.
Yeah, that was so
That was
cool.
fun. It's
Garden
just
of the
such
Gods,
different
yeah.
landscaping than what we have out here.
And I think I've talked in almost every one I've done of these about that road trip. About
Yeah.
how beautiful Kansas was and then how different it changed across
It's
to Colorado.
so drastic as
Yeah.
you go west, how it gets mountains. So then, it gets a little flatter once you get past Colorado. And I lived in Los Angeles too.
Oh yeah, doing
for
makeup
3
and
years.
stuff.
Yeah.
And doing zombie makeup and
Yeah,
stuff. That's
special
what I think
effects
you did.
and hair too. So.
See, you're like one of the most interesting people to get on this
I don't
thing.
think so.
That's awesome.
But thank you.
So good. And then also just sticking with music So you and I did something that never really surfaced properly, but we did something called the Diaries.
I remember the Diaries.
Yeah. And that was me, you, our friends, my brother Steve, and friends from third class, other friends and stuff like that. Maybe I'll put them on here if I find it. I think I got it.
It might be on MySpace.
Where I had Tim Smiley on, and I'll throw like an old thing on.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, right.
Tim
and
Smiley.
It's not really like I'm like, oh, everyone wants to hear about my life and everything, but I think this area with Ohio in it, like the people in Ohio that I know are really interesting for whatever reason.
I agree. There are a lot of interesting people around here, very creative people. Like,
big time. Yeah, and they all know each other.
I think even living in bigger cities, like, I can honestly say that in Ohio, I have a much larger group of creative friends than I made, even in those larger cities. Like, people are just, they have a lot of talent here. It's just, you know, we're in a smaller area. It's not as easy to get recognized.
Everybody found each other who was good. Yeah. And then, but thinking of, like, music and being creative, what would you do, what song would you choose if you were taken to a island where you're the only person on the island? And you were there just with a boombox and a cassette, and on the cassette you just had one song to play. It wasn't like it's playing all the time, but you had to.
That's the only option.
That's your only song
for a song.
And you're surviving. You have food for whatever reason, but you don't see anyone ever again. You know, it's like sad. So you got to have one song. This is your song.
My anthem.
Yeah. Can you give me one answer? Because. Keep this in mind.
That's a really hard question.
I realize if I ask you, like, tomorrow, the answer might be different.
It probably would change.
So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Yeah,
but it is a lot of pressure.
Right now,
I mean, if I had to go right now, I mean, tomorrow I might not like that song.
I know.
Oh man, I love you. I'm a freak by third class. That was always my favorite.
Oh, now I gotta put that one on the podcast. Now you say that.
That you keep the moments while I hold you weak. Hold me tight, kiss my cheek. I love you, I am a freak. I don't know the reason. I know this, I love you.
The only one I think that ever requested you guys play that song.
I should put it on because it's such a sloppy little like recording, but I love it. Yeah, I love it too. Jinx.
Dang it.
You owe me a Coke for some reason. No,
I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of like older songs that I listened to back. I don't know. I've been feeling really nostalgic. I don't know if it's hormones and pregnancy, but I've been listening to a lot of music I used to listen to like in high school and my early 20s and stuff. But I don't know. Probably something like Old by No Doubt or the Cranberries or something like that.
That would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Cranberries, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be.
I love Zombie. Mm-hmm. That's my regular go-to for karaoke.
Oh yeah, that's right. I knew that. Okay, that's a good choice. Zombie by Cranberry, maybe, or something around that.
Yeah, it's
mood.
You know.
Yeah. And then otherwise, in Ohio, how did you grow up religiously, and what do you feel like you are now?
I grew up in a very strict Christian household. I'm a Christian. I have all those beliefs. I'm not, necessarily strict about it, or I don't go to church every Sunday and
sure.
But those are that's still my belief system. So, but yeah, I've learned that, in my opinion, not to offend anyone, like it took me a long time growing up in a strict religious household to understand that, the God I believe in is loving and not someone you should fear. So it took a long time for me to understand that, but now that's what I choose to believe. It's more loving and nurturing God, not one that you should fear and, grovel to.
Yeah. So it's not like, when some people say when they lose some sort of belief in God, they say, why would so many bad things happen if God existed? It's like people always say that stuff. And I like that you're kind of on the flip side where you're like, no, it's not really about that. Just the good things that do happen, even if they're few, that's what it is.
Right.
That's what, yeah. Because, some people take that road. Not me, but a lot of people I've talked to have been like, people, there's so many horrible things in the world, so that means God's not.
Well, I mean, you have to act too. I mean, it's not like, God's going to do everything for you. You make your own decisions, and He allows those things to happen. Like, if based on your decisions, like, we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, and there are, consequences to those mistakes, or we're going to make good decisions and good things come out of those decisions. So, and then sometimes not always good things do, but,
But taking the first step is key.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're acting. So.
Yeah, I heard a kind of inspirational thing from this dude, Kevin Smith, who did all the Jay and Silent Bob. So he does a lot of podcasts, and it's not like I like him.
He listens to you?
I'm sure he does. But this was kind of like inspired by his stuff, because as a podcaster, he oftentimes, almost every episode, gives a little speech about taking the first step on things, and it's usually in a creative. It's like, hey, if you want to start doing music, or if you want to start podcasting, you're going to start movies. He's like, the hardest thing to do is first just do something and be foolish.
You can talk about it all you want,
but
right, until
you
actually take the step to do it. That's why I moved to California. Like, I just felt like I needed to do something else with myself. I needed to get out of my box and try something completely different, and it was a complete culture shock when I moved out there, coming from a very small town and very sheltered life.
Yeah.
But
wasn't the driving a culture shock? I had a friend on here yesterday who said,
well,
what I like about Ohio is...
you don't realize how amazing everything is when you're actually seeing it in person. Like,
and like the 8-lane highways.
And the traffic.
I
actually got used to it. It didn't really bother me. And then I come back here and I'm like, wait, people are complaining about 224 and and that traffic?
Yeah, definitely. And then coming from that, what do you think, the name of this podcast is Nursery. What do you think when you hear the word nursery? Just first thought.
Well, because I know you and Ellen, and I know Ellen's family, they have a nursery. So I think of like a garden or like a greenhouse, things like that.
That's cool.
I feel like most people would think of like a baby nursery.
Yeah, definitely. I think I named it just because I saw that like one of the secondary definitions had something to do with like breeding something or incubating it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. That kind of gives me license to
like
have
a greenhouse.
Yeah. That like gives me license to have like BS conversations on here where I don't have to be like
them
factual.
Grow and turn into something.
Yeah. Where I don't have to be like, fun fact, if you use the pheromones from this and this flows through, I don't know scientific stuff, but if you and me are allowed to just BS on here, I thought that was kind of like a nice excuse. And obviously, totally, it comes from my wife's family's work.
Inspired.
Of course. And then we wrote, me and Jack and Peppy wrote a song about that and all kinds of cool things. My brother Steve was on here and he said church basement he thinks about, and that's an Ohio thing where people just hang out in the nursery while their kids and their parents go to the service.
Well, and like, a kid's nursery, it nurtures and helps kids to grow too, so.
Yeah, definitely.
So it can go that way.
When you were in California, do you have any stories of like ridiculous things that happened to you or anything? I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any
it was a while ago.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Well, I was working, it's expensive in the Los Angeles area. I was working 3 jobs, and at one point, I was working 7 days a week, basically, just to, like, be able to pay bills and rent and have just a little extra to go do something fun. But, which then, when you're working that much, you don't actually have time to go do something fun. But I was working in a salon 4 days a week. Then the other 3 days I was working in the special effects makeup school, like as a makeup artist and selling products and things like that. And then in between those jobs, I would go freelance doing hair and makeup for like photo shoots or, you know, films. A lot of films I did were like indie films and student films. It wasn't like anything major. But so there was one time where I would work until 5 o'clock, have to go, you know, to the other end of the city, drive 2 hours, which should have been 20 minutes, but it was 2 hours. And then from probably 7 to 5 a.m. or, you know, around that time, I would do like, I was working on a short film. It was like an indie short. And I would get home around 6 or 6:30 a.m., sleep for 2 hours, and then go to work around 9 or 10, and then work till 5, and then go back, and then so I was getting like 2 hours of sleep for probably, I don't know, 3 weeks while we worked on that. That was I mean, I could do it then. I was in my early 20s.
Yeah. Oh
I feel
gosh.
I'm only like, you know, barely a big 8 years older than that, but I feel
it's
so
different.
much older.
It's different. And I know
I can't do that anymore.
No. And it sounds like the highlight for you was doing special effects,
I
right?
loved doing that. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed making wounds and like researching what, I mean, it might sound gross, but researching what they looked like and to make them as realistic as possible, and
That would be fun.
it was a lot of fun. You could be really creative with it too.
Nice. And then working backwards, so like your main focus now is hair, right? Like just to give people, or what do you do now?
Now,
Yeah, like
I kind of had
creatively, what do you
oh
do?
creatively,
Yeah, all things,
okay.
anything.
Hair, like
Yeah.
I've kind of been putting, I guess, those things on the back burner. Like since moving to Illinois, I don't really know anybody,
Sure.
so it's like hard to network when you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
So I've been actually a medical assistant in a dermatology office, which is actually, it's a lot of fun. I like it. You get to see a lot of crazy things. But you know, I do like weddings and stuff like that when I can, or like do hair and makeup still for, there's a couple of like events I did people's hair and makeup for, but other than that, I haven't really been able to delve into the special effects end of it or anything like that.
Oh, that'd be kind of hard to do in that situation, for sure.
Yeah.
But then aside from, just to give, that was good, just to paint people a picture of what you're doing now, but working way backwards, why don't you tell me just like in a nutshell how you started to be in a punk band in Ohio when you were young? Like how did that happen, being in Punch Bowl Spikers?
I remember going to your guys' third class. I remember going over to your mom's house and watching you guys play at your house.
Okay.
And I've always loved music. I've loved singing. I've loved playing the piano, which I'm kind of crappy at, but I still like it. I've always loved those things, and I always wanted to be a part of something. And so I would always go to any show that I could, that anyone would invite me to or drive me to, because I didn't have a license. And I remember I saw you guys, and then the Zoo, and Glenn. If you remember Glenn,
I went and saw
Jeremiah
them. Yeah.
Wagner, Drew, and
In a church
Kyle.
basement is where I saw them.
And that's when, and I met Kyle, and we started dating back in high school. And then he, since he was in a band, wanted to start a band with me in it, so we got together, Drew 1 and Drew 2, and we just started making stuff up. We took old Glenn songs at first and did those, and then we started making up our own ridiculous songs, like things about eczema.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
Main Street Diner.
guys always called yourselves PBS
PBS,
short.
yeah. This Punchbowl Spikers can be a mouthful, I guess.
Yeah. And just for people that are listening, if you ever want to go down the rabbit hole on these like crazy little Ohio things, like the two Drews she's talking about. One is named Drew Wade, and I'm not sure if any of this exists, but if you Google like Drew Anderson or Drew Wade, you might find some old MySpace
Drew Diver
recording.
was Drew 2.
And then Drew 2 is Drew Diver, and you'll find him more on the radar these days because he's in a band called Soda Shop. He does some like studio
Drew
work.
Loy was actually
There's
Drew
another.
1.
Yeah, that's right. There's another Drew.
Drew Wade was in Glenn, then Drew Loy and Drew. There's so many.
There's
Drews.
so many Drews. Drew Loy and Drew Diver
Drew Wade
were
is
Punchbowl
probably
Spikers.
Drew 0, and then there's Drew Loy's Drew 1, and Drew Diver is Drew 2.
Sounds like an Ohio type of conversation, doesn't it? Yeah. But Drew Diver, the guy who was the guitarist in the punk band we're talking about, he's the most on the radar as far as music these days. He lives in Brooklyn, and he does like studio and a little bit of live work for the drums. He does his own thing with another girl called Soda Shop, where they kind of redo 50s-ish stuff over like dance beats.
Baby, let's hide and spend some time and tuck our eyes. I smiled at you, oh, you smiled right back, and we had so much fun.
And then he does Horseshoes with a guy from the drums, and has some relation with a guy with all these guys, Josh, Caleb, Jake Graham, all these Grahams, where
Brothers.
he does, all the brothers Graham that have done a million projects that I could go into that I barely remember, like Flashlight Party, Campfire Kids,
The Promise Book.
The Promise Book, and there's something I think called like Polaris, which is not the Pete and Pete band, but another band called Polaris that was like electronic, and I went and saw that. Guys, I'm sorry, some of you guys don't know what we're talking about, but if you want to go down the rabbit hole,
some memory lane for me right now.
If you want to go down the rabbit hole and just search around for the people I named, you might find something interesting. At the very least, maybe use the drums as a jumping off point, and then follow some of those guys down there like paths. Horseshoes is a good example of somebody who still sounds like
I might even have
DIY.
a Campfire Kids CD somewhere.
And guys, I'm sorry, Jill and I are just like an old
We've known
grandma
each other
and
for a
grandpa
long
being like, do you remember Drew? Which Drew do you remember? Which Drew do you mean? But, so sorry if we're confusing anyone who just stumbled upon this. But I hope we're giving you the gist of the demeanor of like small town Ohio, which is like, do it. Just do the band, play in somebody's living room, just do it. Even if there's 3 people at the show, we did it.
We were in a tiny room, and we all sat in a circle and just like if we recorded anything, it was on an old cassette, like 80s cassette recorder.
Yes.
And we all just like sat around it, hit record, and just started playing.
Yeah.
Like that's how it went.
So if you take anything away from this podcast, it's just go do it. Because that's what everybody I know did. They were just like, press record. I don't even know if we're that good. We're just going to go.
Just try.
That's what we all did.
If you love to do something, you should just try it. You know? It doesn't matter if if nothing comes of it, at least you tried. If something does, then great. So.
And Jill's a very musical person overall. Whether or not she's in a project or not, she's always probably singing. I imagine you're always singing karaoke, singing along with something, probably writing songs in your head.
In the car.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of just a way to be, to get through life for sure. But I think that's probably cool. Our little tagline thing that we say when we sign off is I always say, "Look, Mom, we're on a podcast," and I'm talking to my mom as if she's like the listener, and that's it. So, is there anything you want to say to my mom?
Hi, I hope you're doing great. I haven't seen you in a while. I missed you and your hair. Hope your hair's doing good too.
It's just the perfect accent of gray and.
It's very lovely.
No. Could you dye my hair grayish white? Well. It's really no. But my mom's not really girly in that way. But I remember you coming over. And doing her hair. Right? You came to our house.
I would come over. We'd do the kitchen thing. I'd set her up in the kitchen and cut her hair.
That's awesome. Any other things you want to say to anybody before you go? Any other, like a tiny story or any advice you want to give anybody? Anything like that?
I think just going along with if there's something you really want to do, like you should just do it. And that way, I don't regret anything that I went out and tried doing. Even if I didn't succeed in it, I still can say that I did it. And so if there's anyone, I guess, that's kind of nervous or scared or intimidated by going and taking that leap to try something really big that they've always wanted to do, or like accomplish a goal or a dream, you should just do it. Because you never know what tomorrow will bring. You never know who you'll meet. And I don't regret a thing that I did in my life. So, because I always just, if I felt like doing something, I just did it.
It sounds like you did a lot. And I know that personally.
I think I did a good amount. And now it's, and it's not for everyone to like settle down or whatever you want to call it. But I'm at that point where I just do. I want to just relax and kind of, have a baby and just do that thing now. I did my exploring and it's out of my system, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's cool. And I think you'll always, no matter what, it's not really ever a closed door in a sense that you'll always be an adventurous person.
Oh, yeah. Just take my baby with me.
I'm sure this will be just like chapter 2 where, you'll take the kid on adventures.
I hope that can inspire, my kid to like want to be like that and, not be, afraid or, just go out and do what he dreams of doing one day.
Mm-hmm. And there'll be a day where he's like, I'm going to California to do special effects. You're like, no, you're not.
Absolutely
not. How dare you? Where do you get this behavior from, young man? And he'll be like, didn't you go? You're like, I don't want to hear it. You be quiet. No.
You go to your room.
Yeah. Well, I think I caught you at a nice time because not that you aren't like someone who opens up easily, but if you're saying like hormonally, like I think maybe I caught you at a time where you're just go out and do it, like where you're like right, like I'm glad to have caught you at a time where you're more emotionally expressive. You always have been a little bit.
Oh yeah,
like,
I'm very sensitive, emotional.
But you know what I mean. Me and some of my uptight male friends that are all like we're always like we're not that in real life. We're very feminine, but you know what I mean, like
creative artistic people, in males too, they're more expressive. I think.
We totally are. In like the real world, we're all like girls, but like
totally.
So don't get me wrong. But like I think me
Bunch
and
of ladies.
my like bandmates and people that do stuff, we see each other all the time. So that when we press record, I oftentimes get really good things out of them, but we're always on our guard a little. We're like, what have we not done yet? Let's not do the same thing we've always done.
Let's not talk about this.
The same old, So it was nice to get a fresh perspective from you, because it's been a little while.
Yeah.
Probably haven't seen you in a year or two, maybe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. Maybe when I got married.
Chicago.
Oh yeah, when you guys came.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Chicago, 2013 maybe.
At like Target, we went to Target.
Went to
we went and got something to eat, I think.
Stargate.
We went to
Starbucks and
the traditional Chicago locales.
We just like met in a spot.
IHOP and Target.
Yeah. We just like met in like spots that made sense, and that was where it made sense, and we just went.
It was close. It was convenient.
But that was cool. All right, well, hey, thank you so much, and everybody have a good day, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
This is Pete Revere from the Deadbeat Poets, and you're listening to the Nursery podcast from something, Ohio Creative something.
That's perfect. I don't want anything else.